As I mentioned, we got a big story here percolating out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where the Phillies have made a managerial change. Second team in less than a week to do so. Rob Thomson is out, and Don Mattingly is taking over as interim coach. Thompson had a really good record managing the Phillies. Never got him a World Series, but 355 and 270. That was his overall record. Made the postseason every year, just never got him quite over the top. And then this season, the Phillies started off 9-19. USA Today also reporting that Alex Cora was offered the job to manage the rest of the season. He was just fired from the Red Sox, but turned it down to stick around with his family. More on this coming up in just a bit with Peter Apple. Now, big sports betting stories with an S today here on the show. How about this one? Brendan Sorsby, remember him? Texas Tech quarterback transfer. How about this? Checking into a treatment program for gambling. He has an addiction and will take an immediate indefinite leave of absence. He's under investigation in the wake of a discovery of him making thousands of bets on an app, of which we don't know which one yet. He bet on an Indiana football game while redshirting for the Hoosiers, also bet in Cincinnati on the Reds, and did some micro betting, live gambling, and a lot of this, of course, you can't do. He was the number one transfer portal player in 2026. Sorsby, future certainly unclear, at least for the time being. All right, the future for Terry Rozier, this is clear. He's not playing in the NBA again. How about this one? More charges for him, this time allegedly soliciting and accepting a bribe. New charges, bribery-related allegations that expands the case against him. Saying that he accepted a bribe to potentially, again, assuming throw basketball games or point shave, as they say. Rozier already has not played in the NBA this season and is also facing two federal wire charges from October when he got arrested last year under the same indictment. All right, now let's get to some sports, right? Let's get to some on-the-field stuff and on-the-court stuff. We'll start off with Oklahoma City. They did it. Clean sweep. 131-122 over the Phoenix Suns, as they take the series 4-0, advance to the semifinal. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 31 points, 8 rebounds. Chet Holmgren, 24 and 12. Devin Booker did his best. He had 26 points in a losing effort. But yes, it's another playoff sweep for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Here's SGA on moving on to the next round.
Shai, third straight year, you guys got a sweep in the first round. What kind of sense of satisfaction comes with the sweep?
It is a really good feeling. Just for like confidence-wise as a group, it's good to get like the playoff run started off that way. It's just important to get out to a good foot. Like, you never know what can happen, and usually the later you go, the better the team, so the series don't get like that. But you want to give yourself as many days that you can rest, and the more you can sweep, the better off, and the more days you have to rest. So it's pretty important.
I mean, you can't say anything without, bringing up Shai. He's the MVP of the league, and he's playing the best basketball in the league for the past 2 years. Mixed with, guys that know their role, some seasoned vets that, they're relentless. Like I said, with that chemistry, the communication, it's on 100%. And when the bench comes in, they get better sometimes. It's like reinforcement. It's not subs. And they have all the answers to the test. They've been tested together, and they've been together for years. So that's an advantage.
Meanwhile, could the Detroit Pistons have the same fate as the Phoenix Suns? Well, not quite a sweep, but the Magic are up 3-1 after winning last night. They beat the Pistons 94-88. Desmond Bane had 22. They can win the series Wednesday night in Detroit. How about that? Going to be tough, though, to get that win and close it out, says Desmond Bane. They're looking forward to the challenge.
You guys are up 3-1 now. How difficult will it be to get that fourth win?
Extremely. Like I said, this is a team that won 60 games. I'm sure they're not blinking an eye, about being able to win 3 games in a row. They did it multiple times throughout the regular season. So we're going to have to come ready to play, and I'm excited for the challenge, go back up there to Detroit and try to close it out there.
I mean, going into it, shocked, but with the way that we've been playing, that stuff's not good enough to win games in this league. This league's too good. They're a good team, so they're out rebounding us, turning me over. We haven't hit enough shots. Our defense hasn't caught its footing, so it's not shocking that we're losing games like that.
Yeah, That game Wednesday will be the biggest of Cade Cunningham's career. Meanwhile, when the Nuggets need a big game, who do they go to? Nikola Jokic had a triple-double, 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 16 assists in the Nuggets' 125-113 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. They'll play Game 6 Thursday night in Minnesota, so David Adelman and company get at least another shot to stay alive in the series, and obviously knows that this was a must-win, and so is later this week.
I thought it was a good 3.5 quarters. I thought the end of the fourth was sloppy, but there's a lot of things to look at, and say, hey, we improved on this. And I said this in the losses, and I guess it just, when you lose, nobody listens, but there are positives and losses, and you can find things to build on, and we did. And the group, I thought they realized that there were some things that they could build on both ends. And tonight was just a little bit better than it's been. And these series, they're long, man. And Game 6 will be its own story. So we'll look at the things that we didn't do well. And I think there's some things they'll see that some of those kids they played off their bench played well. And so you might see more of them. So we have to prepare for what could happen, and then we got to prepare for what we know we can control.
So what did you see from your group, and what was causing all the problems holding on to the ball?
Just kind of silly, playing in the crowd, not handling the physicality well, just trying to plow through it. Just kind of, that, and just a lot of just silly forced plays by guys trying to make something out of nothing.
Do you think that was there any kind of a lack of urgency on their part? Did you feel
No, I didn't feel a lack of urgency. I mean, we started the game a beat slow, but I didn't think there was a lack of urgency. So.
All right, moving over to Major League Baseball, and the Boston Red Sox take care of the Toronto Blue Jays last night 5-0. That was a surprise because Red Sox naturally just fired their manager. So a couple of wins here for Chad Tracy as the new skipper. Dylan Cease took the loss. He's been great this season. Story was Ranger Suarez, who had 10 strikeouts in 8 innings pitched. Here's Marcelo Meyer after the game on being comfortable with the new staff and the 3-game winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. Obviously, it's been a crazy couple of days. A lot of people that we loved as a team go. Wishing all of them the best, but at the same time, we got to look forward. Tracy and Epi are two of my favorite managers that I've ever had since I started playing baseball. So super stoked for them to be here. We know that Tracy's going to do a great job, and we have his back.
Meanwhile, the San Diego Padres rack up another win, 9-7 over the Chicago Cubs. Mason Miller's scoreless streak does end, though, last night at 34 2/3 innings. He gave up a couple of runs in the top of the ninth. Padres still win. By the way, Yankees made history yesterday. They beat the Rangers 4-2. Ben Rice homered. So does Aaron Judge. So they both have double-digit home runs for the first time this early in the season since 1956. Wow, Max Fried also picked up the win there. The Rays win again. They beat the Guardians 3-2. They have 5 straight wins. Steven Matz is dialing it back. 7 innings pitched, 2 strikeouts. He wins. And also Jonathan Aranda homered for Tampa Bay. And the White Sox come back to beat the Angels 8-7. Murakami homers yet again. He leads the major leagues with 12 home runs this season. How about that? Also, Penguins win, Vegas wins, and we got 3 more games tonight in hockey as well. Welcome back to Newswire here on Sports Grid. Dustin Gawker is in the house to talk prediction markets. You can listen to his podcast on prediction markets or also download his Substack and read it on a daily basis. Thanks, Dustin, for coming on Newswire. Really appreciate it. And man, this caught me by surprise. Not the fact that prediction markets, and in particular Kalshi, having a really good day this past week, but having a record trading day this past Saturday. What sports were everyone trying to predict in? Was there something newsworthy wise? I am just not getting this. I understand sports wise. You had the hockey, you had NBA, you had Major League Baseball. I get it, but was there like a special event of some kind going on?
Not really. This is just Kalshi kind of organically growing. On Saturday we saw they surpassed the $700 million in trading volume mark. That is the second biggest day in Kalshi history outside of the Super Bowl, which is obviously notable. And we're in April, man. This is when the sports betting calendar kind of slows down. We start seeing things cool off heading into the summer. So this is crazy to see. $700 million in volume. Now where this is coming from is partly because of the growth of parlays at Kalshi. We saw just short of 200 million of that total is on parlays. So anything that anybody's betting on that is multiple legs, just like at a sports book. So that's a meaningful amount. Also, it's hard to equate that to retail trading. So when we talk about volume, that's actually both sides of the trade. So if you're betting $1 to win 99, that's counted as $100 of volume. So that's a little bit of retail activity and a lot of market making of people who are doing this. Still, it's growth. Kalshi is making money from this, and on that day we're up to almost a third of volume, more than a quarter, and a little less than 30% on parlay. So this is prediction markets really starting to capture and get into what sportsbooks do best, is parlay. So this is where the growth is coming from as they become more and more able to replicate what's happening in the state regulated sports betting market. We're seeing growth in the prediction market space.
Makes sense. All right, let's get to this story here from the political angle. A soldier arrested for allegedly betting on the capture of Nicholas Maduro in Venezuela. How did ABC News get this story, and how did this end up happening that they were able to find that this soldier ended up doing this? I mean, I guess that's the good news, is that they were able to figure out that he did place this prediction.
Yeah, this is a wild story, and it's to equate it for the audience that's more used to sports. This is a lot like trading on information in sports, right? If you had information about somebody being hurt, or if you knew something was going to happen, this is using information arguably illegally to bet on things. So yeah, a soldier who was a part of the task of the special forces that went in and captured Nicholas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, actually allegedly bet on Maduro being taken out of office at Poly Market. He bet, again, allegedly $33,000 and won $400,000. The Department of Justice brought charges against this soldier, so he could face decades in jail if found guilty of all of this. But this is the wild world that we live in, betting on war. This is, again, kind of international, not really what's in the regulated U.S. space with Poly Market's international site. But lots of chatter about this. This was like the main news story on last week when it happened on Capitol Hill and in mainstream news, that this person, the soldier, was betting on this. And it brings up all sorts of second order effects and questions about insider trading and all sorts of stuff. But this is we saw back in the spring when this happened, when Maduro came out of office, that people were betting on it right before it happened. So, not strange but it's good and interesting that he got caught. He's going to be, we're going to have a trial about this, but yeah, it feels a bit like a fever dream. We're talking about soldiers trading on insider information to bet on what's happening in geopolitical events. It's hard to believe this is the world we live in, Craig.
Yeah, and evolving as we go, and Dustin has it covered for us here on the show. Speaking of which, maybe some political folks were trying to make a statement here by betting on their own elections. At least that's what they're claiming here. Kalshi has taken the steps to ban some of these politicians for doing so, Dustin. But I guess let's start with the idea that at least a couple of these politicians say that they were trying to make a point in doing this. Is that accurate? And do you buy that?
Maybe, yeah. The main story is, again, wild world. This all happened last week, I promise you. 3 candidates. Kalshi divulged that they're investigating 3 candidates that actually placed bets on themselves on elections that are taking place in primaries around the country this spring and summer. 2 were for the House of Representatives. 1 was a Senate candidate in Virginia. The latter, the Senate candidate in Virginia, said he was actually making a point. He wanted to be caught. I'm not sure I buy that. I think he was messing around. They got caught. It's Mark Moran, who's got very little chance to actually win in the Senate in Virginia. But again, knock-on effects of, we now have betting on elections, and people are using Kalshi and other prediction markets to wager on what's happening. And good that they got caught, but it wouldn't exist if Kalshi didn't exist and we didn't have election betting. So people are trying to figure this out in real time. None of these people are going to jail. This was not referred to the Department of Justice, but they were fined. Moran said he's not complying with what Kalshi said and faces a pretty big fine for trading on himself. He also traded on whether he would actually run for office, which for me is the bigger issue. He said there's markets on, again, everything. And there's a market that will this person run for office? Moran was included and then placed a bet on himself that he would indeed run for office. Again, crazy times. One of the people involved also is trying to ban prediction markets in Minnesota. He was actually, again, caught betting on himself, admitted it. And then, at the same time, he is trying to get a bill through Minnesota, which is active right now, trying to ban prediction markets in the state. So, we're just learning in real time about all these effects of prediction markets and how they impact the real world and in sometimes real material ways. Again, going back to the Soldier, like that's a national security issue, right? He's divulging through a market that he's betting on Maduro being captured. And, I think we're still learning a lot of the knock-on effects of what's going to happen from prediction markets as they grow.
Agreed. Dustin, check out his podcast on all of this and his Substack and appearing on CNN occasionally too. So Dustin's all over the place as long as prediction markets are still operating. Thanks again, Dustin. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again next week. Thanks.
Cheers.